Hi, welcome everyone. Today we're going to talk to Mary Lou Randour. She's a psychologist at the Animal Welfare Institute, and she's going to talk to us about the connection between animal cruelty, abuse to animals, and domestic violence. Welcome, Mary Lou.
Thank you.
First of all, so what is the connection between, is there a connection, and what is the connection between those two?
Yes, there's a very well-established connection. There's been research now, over 20 years of research that looked at the connection, and the connection happens in a variety of ways. For example, animal abuse often also occurs alongside domestic violence in the same household. And some people wonder what happens first, but it's a kind of chicken and the egg question. It's simultaneous. So it isn't that a person that abuses an animal may one day hurt a human being.
Mm-hmm.
It's more likely they're doing it at the same time. There was a study done by the FBI of about 260 people who had been convicted of animal abuse and had gone to jail, and they got their case records, and it showed that half of them had committed domestic violence before the animal abuse, and half of them had done it afterwards.
Okay, so so there's not a direct line between if you
it's not sequential. I mean, if you think of it more as a cluster of bad behavior, that people who are antisocial and aggressive with one being will be the same with another being, and the same is true of the people that abuse animals also engage in antisocial behavior outside the house.
And is it also, and women also stay with their partner because they're scared of their pets?
Yes, because that's always a complicated dynamic, and a lot goes into why women stay or don't stay or eventually leave. But one thing that we do know, because research has shown it, is sometimes women delay leaving because they have nowhere to take their pet. So they don't want to leave their pet with the abuser because that's not a good solution. So they're kind of stuck, which is why our group put together the directory. I think we will be talking about safe havens for pets of domestic violence victims.
Yeah, because you released that, your organization released that recently. What is that exactly?
Well, this is kind of organic. I know that's an overused term, but it really did happen over the last 20 or 30 years in the United States, and I think in other countries too, where local neighborhoods saw a need to provide shelter for the pets of domestic violence victims. And so local groups got together and fashioned something. So sometimes, for example, in Tampa, Florida, the Vets Association will take the pets in of domestic violence victims while they and their children go into a shelter.
Mm-hmm.
And Maryland, another state in the United States, in Frederick, Maryland, they go into foster homes. Other times, they may have kennel space in an animal shelter. Mm-hmm. And more recently, there's been a push to have co-housing, to have the pets stay with the family and the domestic violence victim and stay in the same setting.
Yeah.
And that, of course, is ideal, but it also is somewhat more difficult to arrange because of a variety of things. However, that about 10% of all safe havens are co-housing, and kind of a movement to try to develop more co-housing situations.
Yeah.
In fact, the United States just passed federal legislation that will provide funding for the co-housing of domestic violence victims and their pets.
Yeah, it's something you actually don't really think about immediately when you think of domestic violence. If a woman gets abused, it's the pet, exactly. But if you focus also on giving the pet a home, women might maybe leave sooner.
Yes, exactly. And at least they have had that opportunity, because it's clearly that they have delayed it. And so a lot goes into it. Like we also work with domestic violence organizations, because until recently, when they were if they got a call from a domestic violence victim, they didn't ask necessarily, do you have a pet? Does your pet need a safe place? And now they're learning to ask.
Yeah.
And if they don't ask, the woman may not bring it up because she might think it's kind of hopeless. They're not.
Yeah.
So it's all everybody learning more about this and participating in it.
And do you see women then leaving sooner, leaving their abusive partners sooner because this is available?
That's a good question, and I don't think we know that. We just know that up to 41% say they delay leaving because of fear for their pet and well-placed fear.
And you said like up to 41%. And there's also the number in research that between, I think, half or 3/4 of abused women, if they have an animal, the animal is almost always also abused.
Yes, in some way, either threatened, injured, or killed.
That's a huge number.
It's a very huge number. Yes, it is.
That's that is yeah.
And often child abuse also co-occur. I mean, in the same family situation. And if you think about it, again, it's a cluster of behavior where the behavior is being aggressive and antisocial and domineering. And that behavior could be expressed against a human, an adult, a child, or an animal. So right now there are 1,200 entries in our directory.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you are a domestic violence victim or a friend or an advocate, you can search by zip code. In Holland, they have zip codes too.
Yeah, we do.
Something similar.
Yeah.
You can search by zip code to see what is the nearest one to you. The important thing is the woman can leave and know that her pet is safe, and that they will be reunited, and that they can visit one another.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, and one of the things that the animal protection people always emphasize, and it's true because some people don't care as much about animals as I might, but you don't have to care about animals to care about animal abuse, because if you pay attention to animal cruelty, you can identify domestic violence and child abuse sooner.
Yeah.
You can prosecute, you can separate, the individuals and then take action. So it's a win-win for everybody. It's not either animals or women, it's everyone's safer.
Yeah, that is really interesting because you're a psychologist, you know this better than me, but there's a connection even between cruelty to animals and terrorism.
Yes, right.
Terrorism. Yeah, there's this connection because it says something about the person that does that. Like it's something about their behavior that's not just so people, like you say, we might care more when something happens to an animal that we're really like, what's happening here? But for the society, it's better to know which people actually are harming animals because it says something about them, and they might do it to humans.
Or they might already be doing it to humans. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And they won't stop. They won't stop until something stops them.
Exactly. Thank you so much for starting this, and thank you for your time. And we'll check into with you, I think, in a few months to see what this Safe Haven mapping project has done so far.
Great. And nice meeting you. And
nice
thank
meeting
you for inviting me on the show.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone, for watching.